You guys are live.
Hello and welcome, everyone, to Art Toast. Typically, we've been doing this at Cafe Coda live, but due to the recent pandemic uptick, we are all in our own safe spaces. So, first thing I want to say is stay safe, wear your mask when you're out in public, and happy to have you join us here from the safety of your homes. So typically we start with an art toast. So raise your glasses. Let's all raise a glass to Cafe Coda and our guest artists, Anwar Floyd Pruitt and Kenechi Unachukwu. Cheers. So I'm happy to be here at Marzen, our gallery where we're posting from here on out an exhibition celebrating Black lives and Black art. And we'll be running this exhibition through the end of February and possibly extended. I'm planning to get doing a closing reception since our opening session snowed out at the end of October. So keep our fingers crossed and we'll have some management of and we on the parking lot and actually celebrating. So keep our live, don't know, keep it alive. We also have sponsorship available on the Integrated Art Group website. The exhibition is here in person. Appointments is also online in integratedartgroup.com. We have so many more artists and artists continue to add to the website on a weekly basis, so check it often. Just a couple words about Coda. This is the Madison, and let's keep it let's get online until we experience live again. And I mean, so important just to get us through some of this isolation that we're experiencing. So we're doing our part to stay safe, but also bringing the arts to you. So thank you again for joining in. And a jazz snap to all you folks joining in. I also want to thank our sponsors, Dane Arts, Douglas Art and Framing, Moyer Art and Frame and Picture Company, Amonte Art, Artisan Dental, Madison Music Experience, Martin Glass, Unity Point Meritor Health, and many other generous community members help make this exhibition possible. And as I mentioned, there are more sponsorship opportunities available at integratedartllc.com. A little bit about Marzen, Integrated Art Group's gallery showroom. We're based in Madison in the heart of the Atwood Shank neighborhood. We are a full service art consulting firm with a national reach. Currently, Marzen is primarily a showroom for our design industry partners and clients. However, I do get inspired to mount special exhibitions, and we serve as a tie to the community. So it's wonderful to feature local artists and then to have the opportunity to have our community members come in and be able to see this fine work. I'll be hosting Art Toast typically at Cafe Coda every third Thursday through February. Details will be posted on all of our social media and Integrated Art Group website. Tune in again every third Thursday through February. Wanted to let all the artists that are tuning in out there let you know that we've extended the artist exhibition submission. The exhibition portion would be available online, and part of my reason for putting a show like this together and celebrating Black artists, Black lives, is also looking at the role we play as a gallery, as an art consulting firm, and recognizing that we really play an important role and we needed to engage with more artists of color, more Black artists, bring them on to our portfolio, so there are tangible opportunities to actually sell art. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. All right, so I'm going to speak up a little bit, and I'm getting some notices that my speaker's not working, so hopefully y'all can hear me. So as I mentioned, I feel it's important that we stand in solidarity with Black Lives Matter movement, because I recognize that silence is violence. When I went downtown during the protests and afterwards and saw the messages and the murals, I was really moved by that and inspired to do this exhibition. So I felt that the protests would fade away, the media would fade away, and the conversation has to continue. There has to be a significant change in how Black people are treated, and really to unify together. So as a gallery owner and a business owner, as a community member, I've been moved by recent events and felt the need to address the injustices prevalent in our society today. So during Art Toast tonight, we'll talk to one of the artists. Kenechi has mural down on State Street, comprised of black and white photography. And then Anwar will be joining us as well, talking about his artwork and sharing some of his really extraordinary ideas with us. I'm really thrilled to have you both here. Thank you for bearing with us if we have any technical difficulties. This is all, you know, new to us, so we'll do the best we can with what we have. And yeah, so let me start out again with introducing our artists. Anwar Floyd Pruitt is an interdisciplinary artist from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, currently residing in Madison. Anwar is a recent graduate of UW-Madison with his MFA in 20. His practice spans community art, puppetry, and abstracted mixed media portraiture. Anwar is the winner of the 2020 Russell and Paula Panchenko Prize. He was awarded a solo exhibition, Supernova, Charlotte and Jean's Radical Imagination Station. It's currently on view at the Chazen Museum of Art through March 1st, 2020. So coinciding with our exhibit here too. And a collection of self-portraits titled The Multiplicity of Being, version 2, are also currently on display in the exhibition from here on out at Marzen, now through March 1st. So welcome Anwar. Do you want to say a few words before we go into our video, into your art studio? Anything you want to say to our viewers here?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I'd like to say thank you to Margaret LeMay and Integrated Art Group and Marzen Gallery for mounting this exhibition from here on out. And I look forward to these like art talk opportunities, artist talk opportunities, art toasts, because it's difficult to stay connected in these times. And I just appreciate the opportunity to connect with you, Margaret, and Kenechi, as well as the rest of the audience that might be viewing right now. Hi.
Awesome, thank you. So what we're gonna do now is go to our segment where we met with you and talked about how you approach your work and what you're working on now. So Micah, if you can roll tape, we're going to the studio.
It's one of my self-portraits. I was always a performer. I was a class clown, and I did theater and drama, when I was a kid. But I wasn't particularly good at visual art, and so I steered away from it for a very long time. And I think it was sometime in the 2000s, I was dating a woman that lived in New York, and we went downtown, and there was some big sale on the sidewalk, and I saw this $50 t-shirt, and I thought to myself, I can make that. And not in the way that some people art, critics look at a painting and say, well, my kid could have painted that. Not that way, but just looking at wow, I can make that, and this is of real value, and I want this shirt, but I'm not going to buy it. I'm just going to go make my own. The studio wall is, it's this magical place for me. If I have space to tack things up.
I think you need your own TV show.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's part of where the puppetry is going a little bit. And for me, it's important that I'm making a family-friendly show, a show that is sort of considerate of what I would like culture to become as well. I've been performing for a very long time. I was an actor as a child, commercials and a model, and so that's why I do so much self-portraiture. From a very early age, there was this, I wouldn't say a disconnect, but there was this understanding of myself with my image sort of outside of my control, right? And this was something I had sort of voluntarily stepped into, or my parents voluntarily put me into as an actor model. Now, we all know that regarding identity and images and how we're viewed, that there's some of it that's within our control and some of it that's outside of our control. And this colorful background that I'm creating, and I think looking at faces, not the entire face, but sort of breaking it up into different pieces. I'm considering all of this a rip in the space-time continuum, right? And so what happens in the rip in the space-time continuum? I don't actually know. Anything can happen, and I think that's one of the benefits. And it feels an interesting parallel to this coronavirus experience that we're all living through, is that it's very different right now. Will we go back to where we were? I don't know. My answer is no, because I think we never actually go back to where we were, right? We're just looking at it from another perspective. And so this rip in the space-time continuum right now, the isolation perhaps, if I were a wiser man, I would really be able to, this is the plan. I'm trying to become a wiser person. I just need to dig in. I need to let creativity lead me to the future that I kind of want to come out on the other side of this pandemic and sort of political strife. It's a little overwhelming though to have, you can't live with this many faces in your apartment. I draw in my mirrors all the time, and I'm just there are 50 faces, 51 if I'm looking at it staring back at me. Sorry, this is just a little too much. The way I make is I make a bunch of pieces. And so I have this bin here with more pieces, and they're all pieces of faces. So I make all these pieces, and then I just try to combine them in, layer them in interesting ways. I do know that this is my father, but I don't know who drew it. I invited my parents to come to my studio, and I gave them photographs of my whole, my family, photographs of both of themselves and of their parents. And I had them trace them, right? My parents, I'm always trying to lower the barriers to entry onto art projects that are collaborative. And so tracing feels pretty user friendly. And in addition to, but then, so I let them trace, but then I had them trace with their non-dominant hand. So
Yeah.
I'm still trying to push the envelope a little bit and get, you know, try to let them experience sort of life and aesthetics and making the way I experience it. The creative risks, you know, that one can take by doing something with a, you know, with the non-dominant hand, or doing it with your eyes closed, or giving over some of the creative power or creative agency to someone else. I was looking at baby pictures of my parents, and I wrote this lullaby. And I've asked a friend of mine who's a musician to compose music and perform the lullaby. And then I'll show you sort of an example of where I believe this music video might be going, but this is the first time I'm sort of putting the mechanics with the music. And what better place to do something for the first time than, you know, live. I used to do stand-up comedy, so I love the adrenaline too, to be honest.
You are my baby. You are my supernova baby. You are my baby. You're out of this world, I love you, baby. Traveling my lifetime to find you. Hope you know I've been searching for you, waiting for you, waiting for you, for you. You are my baby. You are my supernova baby. You are my supernova baby.
You know, one of my goals is to be able to do something like an Artists Without Borders, and go someplace and make art with a community without, and I can't go there needing like specialty tools. You know, if I need to go somewhere that's just experienced some sort of trauma and I need my laser cutter, then guess what? Like, I don't feel like I'm going to be of service the same way. I've used cardboard all the time, particularly corrugated cardboard, but this little tool right here that you use for like scoring fabric or something is actually really great for cutting cardboard. You know, it allows you to score cardboard pretty easily. And, you know, with the work I do in juvenile detention, I'm always looking for tools that I can bring in that, you know, that don't break or like violate, you know, code and that type of thing. I'm just about using the resources I have to achieve the goals that I want to achieve. And so this same like rectangle that I just cut out, you know, functional rectangle here, nice little window. If I take the time, I can cut these faces out the exact same way. I went to the National Puppetry Festival last year, and I met a person who just said, the best thing about puppetry is that you can always make a living if you can do kids' parties and like corporate events. If I can teach kids to make puppets like this one, you know, that can like, you know, still kind of have a lot of character, but just like really inexpensive to make, collage on them. That's what I do when I work with kids, is I really push collage because I already have a collection of pieces that they get to work with rather than anyone saying, I can't draw. This character that I just had here is called DJ Blue Cat, and he's part of my hip hop puppet party, right? So it's hip hop puppet party. It's a hip hop puppet show. It's a hip hop puppet party. Let's get it started. I think now that I'm trying to make puppets for live performance, but for the camera, I think that I can sort of mix spaces, right? And what I mean by that is DJ Blue Cat can be here rapping, I'm here rapping, and I'm a cat and I scratch. I had him in a different configuration recently, but then here we go. Then we've got this like record in the space-time, ripping the space-time continuum and his cat paw. And so I'm kind of into the idea that there might be multiple perspectives of Blue Cat rapping and scratching at the same time. Yeah. Is anyone else here that wants to rap? I've got to follow my own artistic truth. I get pretty bored otherwise. And I think about sort of the imagination and the creativity that we'll need to like sort of come out of this, these pandemic times, like bigger, faster, stronger, or how about just like, or maybe wiser, more compassionate, more inclusive, right? Like some of the other things that we haven't always valued as much as sort of bigger, faster, stronger, but just to like, do as much evolution in like one lifetime as we can, doing things that you enjoy. There's something about achieving things. And I think that in terms of me approaching sort of art and puppetry, I'm always getting that endorphin, those feel-good hormones or neurochemicals from my art practice, because I'm constantly trying something new. Do arts programming with incarcerated youth in the Milwaukee County Juvenile Detention Center. And I would go there working with groups of four. So 4 artists, a drummer, a singer, a visual artist, a poet. The 4 of us would need to collaborate to bring art programming to the kids that kept them engaged, that, attempted to add positivity to their lives, one through just like art enrichment, but then also, and this is what happens sometimes, it becomes this practice of trying to get kids to break bad habits, not just instill good ones. We asked them to write a song about something positive, and the reality of their situations is that they're traumatized, over-medicated, just getting to jail, waiting for a court date for something. And so it's really difficult sometimes to get a traumatized teenager to write something positive. A lot of the times it is about me being positive energy in the space. And what does it mean for me to be positive energy in that space? I mean, one, it means being honest with kids, because they can like smell right through the baloney. Part of being honest with them as well is that they know things that I don't know. They have lived experiences that I will never live. And so there is something that I have to learn from them. So sometimes I can connect with a kid who's traumatized better by talking about where I hurt.
Nice. That was fun. Hi.
That was so
everyone.
cool. Yeah, that's my first time seeing it as well, and it just really brought back some excitement, just to be able to take that time and share my practice with you. And
Yeah,
Margaret, I love to tell you this, like right after that that artist talk and studio visit, I was so inspired to just shoot the puppet music video. I was so inspired, and it is not perfect, right? It's going to be one of like my ugly ducklings, but it is like this necessary step to just start working through the iterations. And for me, since puppetry is new, figuring that out. But that conversation with you, it left me like feeling really jazzed, and I had a really productive day after that as well.
Awesome. That's so good to hear. And I can't wait to see that video, you know, even in a raw state. So that feels really good. Do you think, and both of you, either one of you can chime in, do you think people in general are turning to art more now?
Yes, absolutely. I don't know exactly how they're turning to it though, or there's so many different ways to turn to it. Many of them being virtual and digital. And I'll say this much, the summer, you know, was a summer full of art and violence, you know, and a lot of, you know, difficult times. But, you know, the art that was created on State Street and, you know, around other parts of Madison and Wisconsin is, it's something that people are turning to. It's something that people are turning to, is something that's capturing people's attention. And, you know, when the doors are closed on so many of the art institutions, you know, it is, I think, valuable that the art is out on the street, available for people to see and interact with. And even beyond art institutions being open, I think that art on the streets is a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Long overdue, if you ask me. You
It's
know, and
I will say this much: it's difficult a situation on State Street and other places because of businesses having been closed and the financial loss. And you know, I have friends that live on State Street, work on State Street, or like some that used to, and it's not easy, you know.
Yeah.
And my hearts go out to those people as well.
Oh, absolutely. And we're all in this together. I mean, I think that's what, like you talked about, are we going to go back to something? And you know, I think it's imperative that we don't go back. Things have to change. And we're all in this together. You know, we as a collective can make our world a better place. And that's what this is all about. And having worked in, as an art consultant and worked in the healthcare industry for so many years, when I started in the 90s, one of, you know, my presentation was about the healing benefits of art. And now, you know, in a healthcare setting, they understand that. And in, you know, hospitality, they understand how art can engage. And I think right now, you know, having the opportunity to explore, process these, you know, things that are going on in our communities, use artwork to express every emotion because it's all out there. It's imperative. And, you know, and I guess thinking about people turning to art now, I think is a pretty good segue to talk a little bit more about Kenechi's work. We met with him downtown as well in front of his mural on the doors of the Overture building. And we'll cut to a video in a little bit, but I want to read his artist statement here. It's very powerful. So Kenechi says that the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis was the catalyst for worldwide protests, and the neighboring state of Wisconsin was no exemption. People from all ages and ethnicities, led by young Black men and women, congregated at the Capitol to voice their frustrations about a system that has led to the wrongful death of many Black citizens at the hands of the police. Calling for an abolition of the police, the group, numbering into thousands, proceeded to take the streets behind banners stating "Black Lives Matter" and community control over police. Even in the midst of a global pandemic, nothing could stop these people from joining the fight for equality and justice. Names of the Black people slain by police echoed in the air: George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Trayvon Martin. For every name chanted, there are thousands more that we do not know. The fight did not end there. Nearly every day since the initial protests on May 30th, groups have been out on the streets fighting for Black lives and the Black community. Groups like Black Umbrella, Link Madison, Urban Triage, Freedom Inc., and Impact Demand continually organize events such as marches, educational seminars, and even parties for the benefit and joy of the community. Even without the news coverage or the acknowledgement of the general public, people are still in the streets till this day, several months after the initial catalyst. Kenechi, let's hear a few words from you before we cut to your segment downtown. Tell us about your foray into photography and how you came to be there to shoot the protests.
Yeah, I think first thing, that sounded really good. I never heard anybody read that out loud. I just wrote it like a while back, but it sounds pretty good read out loud. I should tell that more often. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, it's a thing where I saw that, you know, the protest was planned. I wanted to be out there and photographing and documenting it because in my mind, it's something that would be like kind of like a historical event, right? Like, I think one thing that COVID did is, you know, apart from like, you know, all the negative impacts that it had, I think it also, you know, forced people to be more focused on certain issues. And I think the fight for Black lives was one of those issues, fortunately. And it gave people kind of like the drive and the passion because, you know, maybe other hobbies or activities that you had were no longer happening. So I just wanted to be out there and document that day. And then that's what I did.
Yeah, beautiful. So Micah, if you're in the wings, if you want to roll that next video, we can take a look at a little bit of Kenechi's work downtown. Maybe having some technical difficulties.
First protest I photographed was actually
Micah, we're not seeing the screen.
and it was the one against the stay-at-home orders. So as you can imagine, a completely different crowd. Sure.
Bear with us, folks. You know, we're all figuring out this technology thing as we go along. We had it pretty well down when we were all at Coda together and we could do it. So
that was a very good one that I photographed. I am a hobbyist photographer. You know, I take pictures of things that go on around town. I think the protest was one of them. The May 30th protest.
Tell me a little bit about the day, your photographs. Like does photography put you in harm's way?
I guess so. But I don't really think about it that much. Generally, I think like with like the community aspect, I generally feel I think pretty safe.
So tell me a little bit about the day.
Yeah, so I mean, so May 30th, I just remember like hearing that there was a protest plan. I actually started, so like I know a lot of people started like at the Capitol. I actually started down at Memorial Library because I heard something was going down there. So there were like a lot of students there, and then they marched up to meet the people at the Capitol, and then like, you know, things started going from there, and I just marched with the group, and you know, as they went like around the Capitol, down East Wash towards Village Street and back up. Yeah, just, you know, just spend time like, you know, marching, taking pictures, documenting what was going on.
How is that being perceived, and has anything changed for you?
What I aim to do is just capture moments and emotions. I think, you know, whether it's like pain or anger or like shock or even happiness, and maybe not so much happy in some of these photos, but like, you know, aspects of emotion, kind of showing the human experience. And I think just kind of with these images, I want people to say like, you know, hey, like, you know, this could be me, right? You know, like I could be any of the people in this picture regardless of skin color, and kind of like just have like an empathetic response to that. Photographing events like these has helped me become more in tune with like, you know, just again having an empathetic response like to people that like either like look like me or think like me, and like, you know, just making sure like kind of I'm in tune with like, you know, what, I don't even know how to say it, like what people are feeling, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. And how did your photos end up here?
Yeah. So obviously, like, you know, State Street boarded up for like a little bit, and then there was the whole initiative to like create like the murals down on State Street. So what happened was, at the time, like I didn't know that like, you know, there was like a process for like application for like State Street murals, and I think for a time there wasn't. People were just like doing whatever on them. And one of my friends, like who had seen my photos, he was like, yo, you should you know, take a board and like, you know, just like poster up some of your photos there. And I was like, that's a pretty good idea. So I went to Staples, printed out a bunch of my photos on paper, and I looked for like an open one because at the time that idea had been brought up to me, that was when like a lot of the stuff had been reserved, and like so they kind of started their initiative and stuff like that. So I came down here looking for a board that like was free, so I could just like, you know, kind of like post something up somewhere, which didn't work out because they were all reserved. And then my friend who actually came out with me, he actually saw Karen Wolf, like the art, I forget the title, but he saw her and like her team like just meeting outside, and he was like, oh, it's these people that are in charge of it. And then I called up and I was like, how do I like, you know, apply to do this? They basically asked me like what my plan was, and I was like, well, yeah, I have these like photos, you know, they're just making a big photo collage. They really liked it, and they gave me this spot on the Overture Center, which is pretty sweet. My influences, I guess I kind of like, I have a lot of varied hobbies, I think. You know, so one of them I kind of mentioned earlier was breakdancing. Dance and hip hop in general, that's kind of like one of my influences. But I try to have like some of that aspect when I like do my photography, maybe like a little bit like, you know, rebellious, like close up. A lot of like street photographers in general, like probably one of my favorites is Jamel Shabazz, who like photographed like a lot of like street portraits of New York in like the 70s to 80s to like even like now. One thing I've been like trying to do is just pull a lot of influences from like Black photographers and like, you know, Black photography collectives, because I think that's like, again, like kind of pulling influence from things and people that like, you know, resonate with me.
How has your work or your art career evolved?
Well, honestly, before this year, I didn't have a career. I think one thing for me, like, that's important is to keep things casual a little bit, because, like, I guess, like, I don't think I'm really interested in, like, making art, like, my main source of income or something like that, because then I feel as though I might lose some of that passion when it becomes, like, you know, I don't want it to become a grind or anything like that. I just want it to, like, I want it to be something that, like, I legitimately enjoy. Like, this May 30th thing is kind of like the start, or I guess it was the start of like a greater movement here in Madison. So one thing I've been doing as much as I can is going out to the different protest events like that have been happening since the summer. And I think that's kind of like important for people to know, like, you know, after this day, like, things didn't just stop here in Madison. You know, there's been multiple protests, like, you know, down here, like, you know, down at the Capitol, things like that. You know, pretty much every day. And not every day is like, you know, a huge like scale march, but like, you know, there's groups out here, like, you know, literally every day at the steps of the Capitol, making their demands known, things like that, feeding the homeless, you know, things like that. So May 30th was a start to something greater. I just want to say, like, you know, give like a shout out to the groups that, you know, organize these protest events, because like without that, like, you know, of course I would still be taking pictures, but like, you know, it's because of them organizing the events that I'm able to like take these pictures. So groups like Urban Triage, Black Umbrella, Freedom Inc., groups like those that, you know, organize these events. I think it's interesting, even like comparing like, you know, the art down here, like, I think photography just inherently as a medium, it tends to be a little bit more literal than, you know, fine art, or like, you know, like things like painting and things like that, especially like, I guess like this style of like what you might call like street photography or documentary photography, things like that. So it's kind of like interesting to see the contrast between like, okay, this is a photo and this is a, like, you know, a painting, and like the parallels that you can draw between the two, and like the contrast you can also take away from the two as well.
Do you have any favorite photographs, or what is your relationship with your photographs?
Yeah.
Like this one comes up on the big screen.
Yeah,
I just like
that one is one of my favorites.
Did he get tear gas actually?
No. So all this was kind of like the peaceful protests in the morning and
early afternoon before the riots on the same day. So this one is one of my favorites because so this guy was leading the protests. He actually he went over to the grass and he was not feeling well that day, and then he came back to the front and then kind of I guess had a headache or some pain or something like that, and that's why he's kind of going like that, almost screaming a little bit.
Right.
So I really like that one. I really like this one. This is Brandy from Urban Triage. She's just kind of yelling into the mic. This is when the group had gone down to Willie Street and kind of made a big circle, and she started saying herself into the microphone. That's crazy that I caught that image. This one as well. I think, again, kind of with photography just being very literal, you can see the message on her shirt, and kind of the crowd behind her. And then, of course, this one as well. I think there's you could pull a lot of meaning from this. You have, so clearly, the statue's not there anymore, but when it was you have the "I can't breathe" sign taped on the arm, right? You've got, it's tough to tell, but on the eyes, it has the X's, a cartoon character would be dead.
Right. See that now.
Yeah, and it kind of with the capital in the background, it kind of looks like she's reaching out for help with the capital or the state behind her, not really doing anything, kind of onlooking, which could kind of mimic kind of how George Floyd died, saying "I can't breathe," reaching out and nobody really helping. I'm so surprised this thing has stayed up as long as it has. Again, it's really just paper and glue and some sealant, and clearly there's some, but for the most part it has held up pretty well. Things didn't end after May 30th. Things didn't end after Election Day, anything like that. There's still people putting in work to make sure things change every day, and there's a lot of ways people can get involved with that if that's something they're interested in. And I think it should be again, the fight, we need, not everyone can necessarily be out protesting with people, but there's a lot of ways you can contribute to make a positive impact. Being able to empathize and think of yourself as any of the people in these photos, when I was putting some of this stuff up, I had somebody come up "Oh, that's me, I'm right there," "Oh, that's my daughter, she's right there." It's it's just these aren't just photos, they're people, and these people really exist. These people really have feelings about about things that happen in their communities and the community around us, and these people really exist here in Madison, Wisconsin.
It's back to you guys.
Welcome back, everyone. Sorry, I was booted off Zoom during that performance. So I'm glad to be back. Hopefully we won't have too many more technical difficulties. I've got a question for both of you. Anwar and Kenechi, what does it mean to you to participate in this From Here On Out event, this exhibition, and what outcomes would you like to see?
Yeah, I guess for me, it means like I think it's important for me to like network and be in community with other Black artists and other artists that like elevate Black culture, because I think that's just a very close community, and I think that builds like strong relationships. And kind of like you said at the beginning right now, or at the beginning of this call, right? The current like art culture in the US is not necessarily like how to say like progressive towards like including like Black artists and things like that. So I think it's kind of like a good feeling, important for me to be involved in that with a community of Black artists, like making visuals, whether it's photography, whether it's like mixed media art or other things like that.
Yeah, great, thank you. What about you, Anwar?
I guess I would say that, well, for one, this entire sort of summer, I think starting with the protests has been an introduction for me to a lot of other people in Madison. I, recently graduated from the MFA program, so my, my focus was like very much on campus, and by participating in like the State Street Mural Project and this show, I've been able to, to echo Kenechi's words, just like meet more Black artists. And I think about times like the Harlem Renaissance or something like that, or just, major cities, always kind of have like this really big like art scene or something. And Madison has, and certainly the pandemic has sort of, changed that a little bit, but has like a thriving like art scene and certainly like a music scene and that type of thing. And it has, it's created the strange push and pull. I want to go out and I want to like meet more people. And also I know I should stay home, but it's, it's inspiring. It's inspiring, and it's always great to build community.
Awesome. Awesome. And what are each of you working on now?
So for me, really just taking more photos, honestly. And I think one thing that I'm trying to do at the end of the year, or like my kind of like big project, is to put together kind of a body of work based off of the different protest events in Madison. Because like I said in that video, like May 30th might have been the beginning, but it certainly wasn't the end for protests for like Black lives. So again, groups even I got the notification that somebody I knew was going live on Facebook and they were doing a protest event. So like, even like, on a Thursday night in the middle of the week, things are still happening. And, so from the documentation that I've done on that, my goal is to put that together, and not even just like the protests for Black lives, because that's not everything that happens here in Madison. From like the COVID-19, the anti-stay-at-home protests, the counter protests for like after the election results, kind of putting together the whole picture of like what has happened in Madison in this year through my eyes, I guess.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. That's very inspiring. Anwar, do you have anything that you want to share as well?
Sure. Well, you mentioned earlier that, I have a show up at the Chazen Museum of Art right now, Supernova, Charlotte and Jean's Radical Imagination Station. And Charlotte and Jean are my parents, the title characters, and it's the show is an ode to them. So, I'm working with some educators and the Chazen Museum to create some virtual exhibition tour opportunities for students in MMSD. So that's really exciting to be able to share the work with them and connect with them. I am working on a piece right now, an installation for Bayshore Mall in Milwaukee, where I'm from, through a company called Artist Uprising, and a good friend of mine, artist and curator Emma Daisy, is invited me to be part of that project. And I am digging into puppetry as deeply as I can, and I'm revisiting some of the older puppets that I made because, and I'll show you a quick example of one. It's not going to perform or anything, but just something like this. It's all cardboard, right? Cardboard, string, a rubber band. Revisiting something like this as a way of really sort of digging into how resourceful can I be in making my art, and particularly making art that I can share with people and that they can easily make as well. So I'm really trying to, just push myself to develop projects that I can share.
That is wonderful. Gosh, thank you both so much for joining us. Do you guys have any questions for each other or for me now?
Well, I would like to, I'd like to just sing Kenechi's praises. We weren't live earlier, but I just want to say, it's really nice to meet you. Congratulations. I am inspired by your passion, right? And I think that just following your passion is going to lead you and many of us, artists and just people in general, on to a really fruitful path. So keep up the good work, man. And I can't wait to connect with you sometime, post-pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, likewise. I mean, I think a lot of the stuff you're doing with resource, I think I got super inspired when you were talking about the tracing with the left hand and kind of just making art accessible, but still trying to switch it up somehow, and the stuff with the puppets and being able to go into countries with I forget the exact words, but the least common denominator of tools, and being able to create with that. I think that's that's really inspiring, and I'll definitely I take that to from a photography perspective, and try to create, I think more with less, and see how great you can use that as a multiplier to make something greater.
Right on, man. I'm excited to see your work. I'm really excited to see your work.
Me too.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us tonight. Thanks to our viewers for joining in. I want to thank Cafe Coda again, GoFundMe, Keep Coda Alive, and From Here On Out exhibition at Gallery Marzin on Atwood Avenue, 2345 Atwood by appointment. More importantly, online. Check out all the artwork. Anwar has beautiful pieces there. Kenechi has pieces there. And let's get through this together. So jazz snap for everyone. Thank you for joining. Art toast. Have a wonderful evening. Cheers.
Thank you, Margaret. Cheers.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.